Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special edition of Nerds Without Pants. I am Julian, and I am joined, as always, by Angelo.
Hi.
And not Patrick. We're a man down. Patrick is under the weather, and we're still going to just postpone regular Nerds Without Pants and do a regular episode next week. But I think it was user As Real As It Gets who was kind of hoping that we would do a podcast just for Bravely Default for the 3DS. And as it turns out, that's what we have, stuff that we can talk about it, and we kind of just thought we'd get together for a shorter episode and do that. So, yeah, it's a special edition of Nerds Without Pants. Angelo, you've been playing Bravely Default.
I have.
A lot of Bravely Default.
I have been playing a lot of Bravely Default.
An ungodly amount of Bravely Default.
I have no idea how I managed to put the amount of time into Bravely Default that I have put into Bravely Default.
Yes, and we should say Bravely Default some more.
We should.
Bravely
It's
Default.
fun to say Bravely Default.
Even though I really hate that name. Really hate that name.
It is a dumb name. I can't.
From a company known for games with dumb names.
Yeah. Well, let's see. We've got Final Fantasy versus 13. Oh, yeah. Let's just start with the Kingdom Hearts one. 386 over 2 days. What is that?
Mm-hmm. 358 over 2 days.
Yeah, whatever it is.
Really,
and then,
yeah. My favorite is Dissidia 012 Duodecim, which just jump off of a bridge.
What is it?
And again, I blame Nomura for that.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know if that's true, but I have heard people say that he's the one who likes to come up with these really crazy words and phrases and stuff. So, but yeah, Bravely Default 3DS.
I don't think Nomura had a whole lot to do with this game because I like the art style.
Yeah, actually, and I'm not positive, and we probably should have done a little research, but isn't this the same character designer who has worked on the Ivalice Final Fantasies, like Tactics and
I think
12?
I think he was involved, but I don't think these are his characters.
Okay. Because I definitely get when I see the character art, I definitely get a Final Fantasy Tactics 1 vibe, except they have noses. But just something about the sketchiness, the sketched look.
Yeah.
Reminds me of his style.
And the way they did that on the Vita the PSP version with the cutscenes.
Oh, so good.
So good. I love the way that looks.
Playing that version, but honestly, two things about that. One, it's great to play a version of the game that has a proper translation.
Mm-hmm.
And two, all I want from them for a new Tactics game is a console game that has graphics as good as those new cutscenes in the PSP version, which is totally doable. That's all I want. I can make it happen. But we're not here to talk about tactics. We're here to talk about Bravely Default.
Right.
Which, in case you didn't know, listeners, this is a very traditional, one would say, homage to the Square Enix games of yore. And as I like to say on Nerds Without Pants, it's like the Final Fantasy game to ever Final Fantasy since Final Fantasy 9.
Right.
It really is a Final Fantasy game. I'm a little surprised that they didn't put the name on there, and I wonder if that just says something about how shaky that brand has become due to all of the 13 shenanigans.
Well, I think part of that has to do with they couldn't get away with the stuff that they did before now. For example, when they released it in Japan, they wanted it to be its own thing. I understand that. I think the argument is when they localized it, why then they put Final Fantasy on it, and I think that's because now the way communication is, you can't get away with that. They released the Saga games over here as Final Fantasy Legend 1, 2, and 3. And nobody knew about that, really, because, that just kind of snuck on in. You can't do that now.
Yeah, but see, I'm kind of coming back around to the idea that it's probably a good idea for when games are localized to go ahead and make the names more palatable to a Western audience. And I've been thinking about this for a while, thinking of things like Shin Megami Tensei. What does that even mean to somebody over here? And I realize that it's a niche game for a niche audience, but you could probably get a few more people on board if the name gave you an idea of what to expect. And I come at this from like years of retail where I have people coming in asking to play Oshimushi for the PlayStation 2. And it's I always, even back then I was why didn't they just call it Ogre Hunter or something like that? Something that kind of told you a little bit more about what was going on in that game, because what does Onimusha mean to anybody that doesn't speak Japanese? It means nothing.
Right.
And it's just a really weird thing to have. But people had gotten so into this whole idea of, oh, well, let's have parity with Japan and the US where we have like the same names for everything. And I don't know, I was really behind that for a while, but now as I get older, I think, there's something to be said about coming up with a really good title that appeals to the broader Western market.
Well, I think they did do that to an extent. Like, I know what you're saying. I think maybe a combination of the two is more in order, because the people who love Shin Megami Tensei are not going to be turned off by that name. I mean, they're looking for that. That probably actually attracted to them, like, wow, this game sounds really Japanese, so I wonder if it is. And lo and behold, the thing is, they did change a few things. Like, it's not called Bravely Default Flying Fairy over here.
Thank goodness.
I know. It is just called Bravely Default. And the only reference to the original title is on the title screen. Just the one title screen, it says something like Bravely Default, and it says like Where the Fairy Flies or something like that.
Right.
And that's it. Like, if you didn't even know to look for it, you probably wouldn't even see it there.
Yeah, and I guess to be fair, like, I am totally behind Square coming up with new IP, because that's something that they've really gotten away from is, there was a time when it wasn't Final Fantasy. They had other RPG franchises, and they also took risks on new ones. They didn't always, like, pan out, but at least they tried. So on one hand, it's like, I want to commend them for that, but on the other hand, I really feel that just because of what this game has, what, like, the content of this game, it is such a Final Fantasy game that I think it, well, I want to say it would help, but maybe it wouldn't. Maybe the Final Fantasy brand is damaged enough that, they wanted to distance this game a little bit from that.
I think I think they want to take the Final Fantasy brand in a different direction. And this is the old Final Fantasy brand. But this is, not, for lack of a better term, Nomura's Final Fantasy brand. Nomura has a total different direction for the Final Fantasy franchise. I think what they've done is they've heard that people like us want classic Final Fantasy games, and they have made them, although oddly enough they didn't intend to localize this game, but whatever. There's still a need for that out there, but they're like, okay, so how can we take our flagship franchise in the direction we want to take it, but at the same time satisfy these people that are looking for that game? And I think maybe this is just where they landed on that.
Right.
That's my suspicion. But they're definitely going for that tween demographic with the Final Fantasy games. And I don't necessarily want to say that, like, the people that play this are all pre-teens or young teens. I can totally understand. But I just think, like, that's where they're marketing it. That is where they're, let's make this a pop culture thing. The people that are interested in, like, I don't know, like that, if you almost think musically, like, what type of music are they putting behind this game when they market it? And it's usually that kind of early teenage years, happy, poppy music,
Yeah, I mean, Final Fantasy 13 straight up had, like, a Western pop star do, like, the main, like, vocal theme, which that was, like, the first time that had happened. Mm-hmm. But also, I, to be fair, and I know Katase has said this before, is that they've kind of always marketed the Final Fantasy franchise to the same demographic. It's just that we grew up. It's kind of how Nintendo is with Pokemon. Nintendo is not interested in bringing back people who remember fondly Pokemon Blue and Red. They are interested in marketing that next generation, so that there's always a new group that's like, this is my first Pokemon. And then they hook them for, 5 or 6 games or whatever, or 3 or 4 games. But then there's always a next generation. They're not trying to broaden that at all or reach backwards to, the older fans. And I think that's where Square Enix is for Final Fantasy as well, that, we grew up and we still love it, and we still grin and bear it, I still grin and bear it to pick up stuff like Lightning Returns. But at the same time, I'm kind of gnashing my teeth because I want something deeper and more traditional, but that's, basically I'm not the demo anymore. And I have to realize that and come to grips with it.
But I could put up with the game not being targeted at me if it satisfied that itch I have for what Bravely Default is giving me. Like, there is definite thought and tactical planning that goes in, and what type of a character do you want to make this character, and what abilities do you want them to have, and what is their function with the 4 other characters? Is there synergy between them? These are all things that you have to consider. Whereas, and I don't want to say that, like, I think even Final Fantasy 13, I'm just talking about base 13, not the other ones, with its job system of sorts, is like that super light. Like, I need a tank right now, so, just put that job on this person and have them draw everybody else's is, building up the stagger meter, and, then, okay, he's staggered, so everybody DPS. It's just, it's okay. It's not bad. It just doesn't feel that deep.
Right.
And I think I would play Final Fantasy games despite the fact that their narrative and story, and I would even say art style to an extent, even though sometimes the art is still pretty cool, isn't targeted at me anymore if it gave me what Bravely Default is giving me. So
yeah, and I don't want to go too deep on the Final Fantasy train. I mean, obviously there's reason to, because this game is so similar, but only because we're going to be doing a proper episode of Nerds Without Pants with Erica Sabo very shortly, where we're going to talk all Final Fantasy. But I would say that it would be great if maybe at some point, and it depends on how this game does, but I'm really hoping that Square Enix would be paying attention to reception and to sales, and say, well, maybe we can put more of that depth back into our main franchise. Maybe they don't want to go whole hog back towards this turn-based system, but, having like a lot of customization with job classes and secondary classes and equipment. Oh, equipment. Like, that's one of my favorite things. Mm-hmm. Is actually having lots of equipment that, at least from the demo, and mea culpa, I have played Bravely Default for 10 minutes so far, and I'll get to that in a little bit about why that happened. But even just from the demo, like the fact that new equipment made a very big difference on the battlefield for me, where it was like this next weapon was all of a sudden like the deal breaker, or not the deal breaker, but the deal maker rather, for like a boss fight. Or, I got this really nice shield and I'm taking a good like 15 to 20 hit points less damage per hit, which is huge over time. And I love to have that option where, recent Square Enix RPGs have definitely been like, you can put on a thing, it'll do something, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just don't really worry about it. Play dress up.
Well, the other thing too is you even have to plan how you do that, because unless you do some tricks with the game, like I may have, you can't just roll into town and buy everything that you want in the shop. You have to pick and choose. Because
which is a nice problem to have, because that's how it used to be. You really had to like make conscious decisions about, well, I can only afford this spell or this sword. What's it going to be?
I specifically remember in the original Final Fantasy, and if I were to play it again, I would remember exactly when I needed to do this. There is a specific sword that I want for whoever I have using swords, probably the fighter. And the fighter, obviously. And I want that before I do anything else. So I go over to the woods and I grind for like a half hour to get the gold together to go and buy that sword, and then I'm on my way. And there's that one part where you have to do that. In this game, it's a little more. I found the game itself to be less grindy than the demo, but also because, like you, I just don't run from battles.
Yeah, and I'm glad to hear you say that, because I definitely think that a lot of people who have complained about grinding over the years, they probably are trying to get out of battles, and I just never, unless you're really limping to the finish line, so to speak,
right,
like in a dungeon, for me, there's really not a reason to do that.
Or if you're in a battle and like half your party gets wiped and you're like, I'm not coming back from this, so
yeah, run away.
Mm-hmm. My white mage is down. We have a problem.
But you do find it to be a little smoother of a level progression than the demo was.
I do, and I have found that now I'm no pro at this. Like, I didn't finish Final Fantasy V. I didn't come up with all these great game-breaking things in Final Fantasy Tactics, so I'm not like a real ace at figuring out, oh my goodness, if I do this ability and that ability, then I'll just get like 5 extra turns per whatever and deal 9,999 damage every swipe on the board. I'm not that good. But I can figure out tricks, and like I said, I have figured out some tricks where I just make tons and tons and tons of money. I also figured out just some real good synergy combinations with some of my fighters where I can have one fighter now that dealt like 7,000 damage in one attack to a boss.
Wow.
And it was but it still doesn't break the game. Like, I'm not one-shotting bosses. I'm not even like three-shotting bosses with this attack. The game is balanced to where doing that will make things easier, but it doesn't just hand them to you. And that's kind of nice. Like, it feels like there's a pretty solid balance going on. So,
it seems like they are cognizant of the fact that, one, there are going to be people who find like the secret sauce in the combinations of job abilities, and two, there's going to be people in certain regions, especially Japan, who are going to totally like upgrade their town with like that little mini game thing where you get like the really good stuff, and even if you get that loot, like it seems like you're still going to have you're still going to be challenged at some point in the game. So I definitely like that it seems to be properly balanced for all of that.
Well, here's the thing. There's still a wall there. Like, I leveled up my town really fast because I brought 20 people over from the demo. Because that happens. If you play the demo, you can bring over a max of 20 people from your demo town into the final game. Plus, you can do internet updates now to get people once a day. Everybody in my household has a DS, so I may have put the demo on all their DSs so that when I street pass with them, I get street passes, and there's a guy at work that has it. There's somebody around where I work that keeps walking past where I work, or I walk past them or something, and they have it. So I got a fair amount of street passes, and I have like 70 plus people in my town. But
wow.
Yeah, I still couldn't get the Uber weapons because you still have to pay for them, and they cost like 99,000 peach, which is the currency. I really want to say gold actually, because peach just sounds weird. But anyway, so they even wall you off from that. Now, again, I can do my tricks, and which is why I ended up dealing 7,000 damage every other turn to one particular boss, because I got a freaking epic spear and gave it to my my Valkyrie, and then I can tell you this combination. I don't think it's that big of a game breaker. Basically, there is a spell fencer ability that basically, when you get this job, they're called asterisks, right? And jobs. So you get that asterisk to get a job. So you get this asterisk, you get this job. It allows you to change your weapon to an actual element. So, for 10 turns, this will now be a frost. This weapon will now deal frost damage, and then it'll do fire or lightning or whatever. So what I would do is I leveled that up to where I could use level 2 black magic on it. So it would be whatever, like ice level 2 Blizzara or Blizzaragra or whatever, for ice level 2. And then the boss had a weakness against ice, so I just had the subclass of that, which lets me use the ability from that class. Primary class was Valkyrie, which is basically a Dragoon.
Right.
So it was enchant, jump, land, decimate. It was pretty fantastic. So yeah, just elemental weakness exploitation, and that felt. It didn't feel like I was breaking the game. It felt like I was just really using the game to its fullest potential.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I haven't played the full game. Like, I haven't even gotten to a fight yet. Like, I basically saw the opening cutscenes. But when I was playing the demo, I loved the fact that I was rewarded for kind of thinking outside the box. Like, there were two bosses in particular. There was one that he was weak to ice spells, but he would cast Reflect on himself pretty regularly. So obviously, like this goes back to like old school Final Fantasy, where the solution to that would be to cast Reflect on yourself and then bounce the spell off of your own, thing. But I didn't have that ability in the demo. But I noticed that it would wear off after a few turns. So what I would do is I would have my Black Mage default for every turn that Reflect was up, and then the second that barrier came down, I would just brave all my points away and just annihilate him with ice spells. So that was really cool. But then also, one of the tougher bosses in the demo, was completely susceptible to poison, to the point that it would do something to the tune of like 900 hit points of damage per turn. And I just love the fact that, because, normally, I don't know about you, but I have felt in a lot of RPGs that status ailment spells always work on your party, but they never work when you try to cast them on the monsters.
Yeah.
Except in very rare occasions, and I love the fact that probably in the last like 8 or 9 years, there's been games that have really rewarded you for, no, you actually should probably dismantle this enemy a little bit by sticking some, debuffs on him before you actually go to town.
Yeah, and I actually didn't do that, so I beat that boss without using that exploit, so that's kind of neat. I am still in the old frame of mind, don't even bother with the status elements. Like,
right, kind of just brute force it.
Well, not really that. I mean, you still have other ways to finesse a battle. Like, and that's another thing. Like, this isn't, there's only one key for this lock. There's a few different ways to beat this thing. Sometimes it is brute force. Sometimes you just bash your head against it until something breaks. And, I don't remember which boss that was, but I did beat all the bosses in the demo, so there was certainly a way to do it without using poison.
This was the Minotaur.
No.
He was like super physically strong, and he was kind of a damage sponge. But yeah, I just happened on, it was like on a whim. It's like, let me try poison, and it stuck. And then it was doing like massive damage every turn. And I was like, oh, okay, like that's really cool.
Yeah, and poison really isn't worth it on, the grunts, because 2 or 3 turns and they're gone anyway.
Exactly.
So you get that damage for
it should work on bosses instead.
Right. But then again, what bosses, obviously it's not going to work on the mechanical ones. You kind of know that right off the bat, but let's see. I'm going to have to keep trying that now.
Yeah. And that's another thing is that I love the way that if you know your stuff from older games, you're rewarded here where, let's say you come across a zombie and you cast life on it and that kills the zombie because that's how it used to work. Like, I love that stuff. Yeah. And which incidentally, that's how I beat the final boss of Final Fantasy X.
Nice.
Because I had a weapon that had zombie, and it actually procced, and I was looking, I was like, is he green? Like, did I turn him zombie? And then I cast full life the next turn, and sure enough, that put him down.
Nice. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, there's it, and that works. And the other thing that works is, if you remember, again, the last time, I'm sure this has happened in other Final Fantasy but I remember really using it in the first one a lot. You will get weapons and items that have dual functions. Like, you'll get a sword, but if you open your menu and use the sword as an item, it has another ability.
Is that in this game?
That is in this game.
Is that in this game? Oh, I love that.
That's in there.
Nice.
And there's even a job class that you'll get eventually that boosts the effectiveness of items, and it works on those as well.
Oh man, I need to play this game.
You need to play this game. This game is great.
So now we've kind of gotten a little overview. Can I kind of talk about why I am so far behind you now? I mean, it's a lot of things. Like, on a personal note, like, I met somebody, and so
nice.
I've been spending a lot of time talking to her because it's a long distance thing. But retail has been failing me, like, just kind of across the board lately, and it's really starting to frustrate me. So I pre-ordered this game back in December because I wanted the special edition. I think at the time it was only available to pre-order at Amazon. It may have been through Best Buy, and I prefer to buy my games at Best Buy because I have the reward zone points, and I love to exploit that because I've gotten some really sweet deals,
right?
Especially through the gaming stuff, because I don't think they expected someone like me to come in there where I'm buying like as many games a year as I do. So that's been really good for me. But the problem is that when you pre-order at Best Buy, you have to pay right up front, and I kind of don't like doing that just in case something happens, like the game gets canceled or delayed or what have you, or they don't have, in a case of a special edition, maybe they don't get their allocation. So I kind of prefer to go through Amazon, which is what I did. And I think it was funny because I remember I pre-ordered it probably like a couple days before you did, Angelo, and you went to Amazon and they were out.
They were gone.
Yeah.
And then they put them back in stock and they were gone in an hour.
Yeah, and I was so happy that I got it when I did because, like, it looked like a really nice special edition, and it is a really nice special edition. So first of all, I don't know when this happened, and maybe it's because I'm not a member of Amazon Prime anymore, but there used to be the whole release day shipping, which I didn't get for this game, and I also didn't have the option for Lightning Returns, which I also ordered through them, because I wanted the Cloud outfit and the Una outfit for Lightning. So Bravely Default didn't even ship, like, the day that it came out. I think it was like a day later, and then there was that whole part where I had to wait like a week for it to show up.
Right.
So like that was a bummer right there. Right around the same time that game shipped, I had ordered a couple books, right? Mm-hmm. The books came like a day before Bravely Default, and I bought 2 nice-sized paperbacks. If you care, it was a copy of Stranger in a Strange Land by Robert Heinlein for a friend, and then the first Vampire Academy book, because I saw the first movie and it was really good, and I want to know more about that universe. Don't judge me.
I know nothing about it. I don't know anything about it. I don't even know enough to judge you jokingly.
It's Harry Potter meets Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
That sounds like it could be really good or really bad.
Oh, it's so good.
Okay, then.
Anyway, so yeah, I ordered those. They came in a very nice, sturdy box. Like, open them up, pristine, brand new paperbacks, very happy. The next day, Bravely Default comes to my doorstep in a media envelope. And I'm like, what? Oh no. So I get it back to my house, and I open it up, and the very huge box, like the game comes in, which incidentally is the exact same size as the 2 books that I bought, is completely mangled on all 4 corners.
Wow.
Like, it's in really bad shape. I posted the pictures on Twitter, because I was that livid.
It was banged up pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, to the point that it was actually like coming apart at the bottom. Like you could probably, I mean, you could see inside the box. And I'm a collector, and I kind of take very good pride in my collection. I'm the type of guy, I have Super Nintendo games that I bought brand new that still have the plastic baggies for the cartridges.
Nice.
Okay, that's the type of guy that I am. And the reason that I bought this collector's edition is for collector's purposes and for archiving purposes. And it's like, I kind of don't even want to look at it. Like, it's in such bad shape. And it just makes me so upset. And obviously, total first world problems. I mean, it's not like I can't play the game or anything. The game,
right,
is a cartridge to anyway. And, the playing cards in there, which I probably will never open because collector. Right. They're all intact and everything. And then the soundtrack is fine. But man, like, for something that you want to put on a shelf,
right,
next to other collector editions, like it is not a nice shelf copy. It is a very worn copy. And then the fact that I didn't even get it, like, the day, like, anytime near when it came out. So I was already behind to begin with. And then the same thing with Lightning Returns. So, like, that came out, okay, we're recording this on a Wednesday. Lightning Returns came out last Tuesday. And it didn't ship for me until Friday, and I didn't get it until today. So
For what it's worth, ever since Christmas, and we have Prime, Amazon shipping has been weird. Like, some stuff they'll get, and then some stuff they will just not get at all. Like, it's been really unpredictable, even with Prime, which is weird. Especially considering we're paying for that.
I just thought of something insidious, Angelo.
Go on.
What if this is like a well-laid plan to get people frustrated with the shipping at Amazon to get you to upgrade your account for drones?
Oh, jeez.
Ooh. Follow the money.
Yeah. What's that barge doing out there? Did you hear about that?
I don't.
Amazon
no?
has a giant barge out. I think it's in San Francisco Bay, somewhere out in California. Nobody knows what it is, but it's huge, and they've got stuff going in and out of it all the time. It's real weird.
Nanomachines.
Metal Gear.
That's where the PMCs like start. The cyborg PMCs from Metal Gear Rising. That's where it begins. It's Amazon.
It's that crud. I can't think of the name of the place now. Oh well. Done with Metal Gear Rising.
Yeah. So anyway, like not to rant too long, but very upset with the condition of the game, and then just getting it really late, and I've been like just running around, and I feel like I've been busy. Like we recorded Backloggers, which I haven't even, at this point I haven't had a chance to even like start editing yet. and busy with work. I've been working like a ton of overtime, so I come home and I do my DDP yoga workout, and I'm kind of done. So literally, like, I popped in the game one evening when I was already tired, and I was like, let me at least see the beginning of the game, and I was impressed that it had cutscenes with, like, audio, or, like, dialogue, like, voice dialogue.
Did you get through the whole opening? Like, did you do the AR thing and all that?
I didn't do the AR thing, no.
Why not?
I don't, the AR stuff. Well, also, I mean, this was at night, and I was, like, laying down, and I was like, I am not getting up, turning on a light, and putting this on a flat surface. That's just not happening. Did I miss out on something cool?
Well, I liked it, but it's also kind of cheesy, too. I mean, there's a lot of, I don't want to say this, like, this game, I don't want to say it embraces its cheesiness, but it doesn't try to cover it up. You know what I mean? Like, it's not self-aware like some of the other games are, where they're like, okay, this is obviously snakes on a plane, haha. This is more like, I know that they were going for this, and they definitely got what they were going for, but at the same time, they don't try to cover up the fact that the game is what it is, and sometimes the game is just cheesy.
And to be fair, I mean, like, the games that it's kind of harkening back to had their cheesy moments also.
But even
Spoony Bards,
even with the voice acting and things like that, like, it's just
okay.
And it's not bad. None of it's bad. It just lands in Sunday morning cartoon territory, or Saturday morning. Wow.
That's okay. They don't really exist anymore anyway.
They do for us. In our memories.
I need to move to New York. Oh, okay, yeah. Now, would you say, because the demo, I actually thought that, like, maybe the characters in the demo weren't even in the game. I was kind of crossing my fingers for that because I hate the names. Like,
no, they're there.
Ring a bell. No, that's a terrible name for a character. But anyway,
no, you don't understand. When you meet the character, it's going to work. I promise you. Okay.
I did like the little intros for each of the characters. I thought that was cool to the point that, you know, and maybe this is like bad on my part, but, you know, typically I'm like, okay, I've got two girls in my party. One's going to be a black mage, one's going to be a white mage, because that's how this goes. But the fact that, and I forget her name, but the blonde girl, yeah, she's like totally portrayed as like a samurai, and I was like, oh, okay, well, I will totally put her down that path.
She's my tank. I'm not even kidding. She is my damage dealing tank, and she's probably the best one for it.
Excellent. That's really cool. I like them to I like the way they play with that. Mm-hmm. You know, like Dragon Age 2, the tank in your party was a female knight, and I thought that was a really awesome little touch. But anyway, what I was getting at was like, do you like the characterizations? Like, because in the demo you didn't get any indication of their personalities. Like, they were basically just, there was no story in that thing really. It was just kind of a chance for you to go out and level and see what the battle system was like.
Yeah, and you're really going to get to know the character stories. Like, they definitely have established personas, and they're well developed. They're tropey, don't get me wrong. I mean, they're not anything too earth-shattering, but there's a lot of voice work, way more than I was expecting. The game is almost fully voiced, except, you know, for all the cutscenes, it's fully voiced, and then for just the time where you're like walking around talking to townspeople, that's text on a screen, but everything else is voice work. And they all have distinct personalities, distinct ways of talking. They sound like the characters that they're supposed to be. I like it. I can't sit there and say, you know, this is Shakespeare. It's definitely not. But it's cute, and it works, again, for what it's trying to be, which is an old school JRPG with a job system, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would actually want and prefer the characters to be a little tropey, simply because it's something that we haven't really had in so long. You know, and again, maybe we have. Like, I've gotten away from some of the more esoteric JRPGs in the last few years. So maybe I've just been missing that there. But as far as, like, big budget, you know, high profile JRPGs, I don't feel like we've been getting a lot of that. So it's almost nice to see, oh, yeah, there's a guy in the party that's an amnesiac. And yes, this sheep herder lost his village, and he'll probably I'm just saying based on experience, he'll be really broken up about it for about 2 hours. And then he'll just kind of get over it. That's what normally happens.
Yeah, maybe. That might be how that goes. I mean, it's obviously going to be a recurring plot theme, and I'm sure you know this by now. The village you're rebuilding is that village, so it comes up frequently. But there's not a whole lot of surprises as far as characterization goes, but it's not bad either. I like one of the things, like Idea. You mentioned Idea before. One of the things is, and you've seen this too, written out like. When somebody makes like a frustrated grumble, it's like MRRGRR, MMRRRG. She will actually enunciate that. She's like, and it's awesome, and I love it. So, I mean, there's stuff like that that just makes these characters really endearing. Another thing is, like, I don't know, just the one of them is like a country bumpkin kind of, and he even talks that way. Like, he always sounds a little unsure of himself when he's speaking, but it's done. It's done well. They definitely have personalities. I think I addressed your question.
and also, I was I was watching Erica Sabo's video review for Bravely Default, which you should definitely check out. It's probably her best produced video to date. Like, looks very slick, very professional. And she was getting me even more excited about the game than I already was. I watched it probably a couple days before my copy came in the mail. But I noticed that it seems like a lot of the personalities of the secondary characters, as far as like antagonists and also just people you run into, seem to be pretty good. Is that? Would you agree with that?
I would.
Because I saw some of the characters that the party seems to run into, and they definitely kind of reminded me of some of the more outlandish characters that I've seen in other JRPGs, and that excited me.
There's when you meet do you know anything about the way you actually earn your jobs? Do you mind? Should I go into that a little bit, or?
Yeah, that's fine. I don't think. I mean, I personally, I would imagine that you get a crystal at some point, and it
There's
like gives you jobs.
Crystals involved. But basically, in order to acquire a new job, you have to beat an opponent that has that job.
Oh, yeah. I like that.
And they are not just random opponents that you encounter. They are actually, troops like in a battle. Like, they have stories and things like that. And even they're unique. Like, they even have personalities. Even these characters, and they're characters that are on screen for, just a few snippets of build up and then the encounter itself, and they're all like, when you meet the Black Mage guy, he's fantastic. There's the first two you run into are like a kind of bumbling but entertaining male and female that have first two jobs that you get. And, you can tell, like, they are filling a stereotypical role, but they're doing so in an entertaining fashion. And the Black Mage guy, I still talk about him because he was great for the few minutes he was around. He was amazing. So I liked him quite a bit.
Until you iced him.
Yeah.
Have you, and here's a really important question. Have you come across any NPCs named Biggs and Wedge yet?
I think, well, yes. There are.
Oh, really?
There is two characters that will appear later who, if the franchise continues, maybe a Biggs and Wedge. Maybe. I will not tell you who they are, but you'll recognize one of the names because it's a Final Fantasy reference. So excellent. That will kind of, I think it's a Final Fantasy reference. I actually believe I put a picture of it on Twitter. I'm not sure. But just the guy's name going, I wonder if this is a reference to this Final Fantasy character. So, and they are, yeah, I think it's their Briggs and Wedge. So we'll see. I have to keep cutting myself short because I can here's probably why I think that, but then I don't want to ruin that for you. Yeah,
and we are trying to stay away from major spoilers or anything simply because the game is so new, and I will definitely be putting a lot of hours into this at some point soon. man, things are starting to like stack up all of a sudden, man.
These games
It's like I have yet to finish Assassin's Creed and Killzone for my PS4.
Strider.
I've got Lightning Returns.
This game, I want it. I looked at it. I watched a video of somebody playing. I think it was like I watched just the first hour of it because I like to do that before I buy a game, unless if there's not a demo available or if I just don't have the time to get to the demo or whatever. And I want that game so bad. It looks great.
Yeah, it sounds good. And then, I mean, Thief is coming out like in a week. And I was thinking about, like, I would like to get that for my PS4, but it's like I'm trying to stick to my don't buy new games for your PS4 until you're done with the ones that you already bought. And I'm still working through my launch games. But then Infamous is right around the corner, and I think Metal Gear Ground Zeroes is not too long after that, and I've got Lightning Returns sitting unopened, like it's still in the envelope because I just got home and it was waiting for me. And yeah, Bravely Default. So the only thing that I have finished this year has been Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds.
How long did that take you? That wasn't a pretty long game. It took me a couple of days, but I binged on it.
Yeah, I wish that they had a timer. Like, I want to say that I probably spent about 15 hours.
There's in the system tools, and I can show you how to do this after the podcast. There's a way to look how long you've been playing a particular game on your system. There's a system clock that.
Oh, that's right. I'll have to go look that up. I would doubt if it was more than 15 hours, but like you, I kind of binged that over about like 4 days.
It's a great binge game.
It is.
So.
Yeah, and now I was kind of hoping to get her on the show, but she's kind of mic shy. But your wife, who, you know, it's been kind of fun to watch this evolution of her, you know, she not being a gamer, but totally like playing games.
Started with Facebook. Well, no, it started with Super Mario Brothers.
Way longer than us.
It started with Super Mario Brothers. I'm not gonna. I would be remiss if I left that out. She had a Nintendo growing up, you know, and she played Super Nintendo Legend of Zelda and actually didn't like it. She just yelled, hated it. You couldn't hear her because she's off mic. But the thing is, I don't think she had played many games from then except for like Facebook things. And I'm not even kidding. Like, yeah, it was like Mario Brothers and right. It was like Mario Brothers and that's about it. That's when she's trying to contribute off mic. So, but yeah, since, you know, the Super Nintendo era ended, it has pretty much been, you know, her reintroduction to video games was pretty much Facebook. And, like, not even kidding, Farmville, Candy Crush, all the games that the hardcore gamers look at and go, oh, you're poisoning the water hole. Well, guess what? This actually works.
Oh, yeah, they definitely have their places. I mean, I can't really say anything bad about them because I put in, I don't know how many tons of hours into Simpsons Tapped Out and Tiny Tower on my iPhone, which are basically the same thing. All you do is tap and wait for timers to fill, and then tap some more. The
only mobile game I ever got into, those really don't have any grab for me. I can see the hooks. You know what I mean? Like, I've tried a couple of them, and like the hooks kind of scratch my skin, but I'm just like, they don't really ever catch. Like, I definitely know they're there, and I definitely can see how they would get people's attention. Like, there's definitely something satisfying about progressing, even if it's just by tapping on a screen. But there's something that my brain needs that's a little more that's just not there. I can see stuff like even stuff like Candy Crush, like that Match 3, because at least there's thought going into it. Or what was that one? There was like a Match 3 that was actually that and a hybrid of an RPG for a while. There was a couple of those.
Right. Well, like Puzzle
That's
Quest, and I mean that wasn't a mobile
Right.
game, but
Well,
yeah.
one of them was on mobile. Anyway.
I think there's one. Yeah, there's one. I think it was like 10 million or something like that. But yeah, and I'm definitely like you, Angelo, where I need a little bit more. But I mean, there's a couple of Facebook games that I got really into, and one of them was the Dragon Age.
Oh yeah.
Game. Like that was actually like a straight up turn-based role-playing game, and I sunk a lot of hours into that. Like it was all flash animation, so that like the graphics weren't all that great, but like the progression was really good. Like I really liked the loot and the armor that you would get, and the fact that once Dragon Age 2 came out, I got like a whole bunch of loot based on, from playing that Facebook game. That was really cool. I love it when EA does that stuff.
Yeah, you know what? I think that Blizzard game, this isn't really casual, but there are versions of Magic the Gathering, like their official ones that you can play on mobile, where the deck building is super light, and it's fine because I don't have the kind of time to devote to building a deck like I used to. But I will play those, and I will also probably end up playing that Blizzard CCG that comes out. I could see myself getting sucked into that. I got sucked into Card Hunter for a while. Remember that? That was really fun. I would go back to that, except the encounters take like 2 hours now because I'm just so deep in the game. I mean, it's nice because they're really deep and you have to really think yourself, you have to think your way through it, and it's still a great game. I just don't have enough time to sit there and devote 2 hours to doing one particular thing. So, anyway, getting back to... Right. So, randomly, and it's the weirdest stuff that will get her interested in stuff. She saw, believe it or not, us when we first got our 3DSs exchanging puzzle pieces. And she goes, I want to do that. That looks like a lot of fun. The street passing thing, getting puzzle pieces from people. Okay, so I said, well, why not? And, we figured, let's try a few of these games, and, you can get Mario on it and stuff like that. So I figured, why not? You get that, get a bunch of the stuff from the eShop and have a bunch of fun with some classic games that you like. Makes sense, right? So that was how it started. And then Dragon Quest happened. Well, actually,
Dragon Quest
to be
9.
fair, what happened first was, I think, that built-in game where you have to go take your avatar and go on quests and rescue, you have to rescue people. Do you know what I'm talking about?
On the 3DS, you're talking about the...
Something Me. Find Me,
Find
that's
Me?
it. I think that might have been, like, maybe where the first hints of this kind of sunk their way in, because she had never played a JRPG before. At all. Like, the whole concept was non-existent. And then we got Dragon Quest IX, and we all got copies. There were 4 copies of Dragon Quest IX, and nobody got more hardcore into that game than my wife did. It was absolutely amazing.
Now, real quick, because I think, well, I want to say that we had first started talking, like, around this time that this happened, but if I recall, wasn't it that you were playing it first, and then she kind of saw you playing it, or was she just really taken with that Seth Green commercial? Because I love
it had nothing to do with the Seth Green commercial, I guarantee it. Nothing bad against Seth Green, just, that wasn't it. No, I think it was the idea that it was a game we could all play together, and she saw me playing it and thought, okay, that does look fun. It was a little bit of everything, So we all ended up getting copies. I think I actually got her a copy first, and then we got the kids' copies. And then we all ended up, like, trying to play it. And it works sometimes, and it doesn't work sometimes because, everybody's staying together in one person's world, and then accomplishing a task sometimes gets a little difficult. But the fact of the matter is, she dumped hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours into Dragon Quest IX, and I don't even know how much. She's saying 400? 400 plus hours into Dragon Quest IX, which is nuts. That's...
And to put that into context, when my friend, girlfriend at the time, went to Japan, she took my DS with her to Street Pass in Japan, and so I have some Japanese players in my inn for Dragon Quest IX, and those guys have put like 600, 700, 1,000 hours. So the fact that your wife, who was not big into games, was reaching like Japanese salaryman levels of gameplay is kind of insane.
Right. It is. And that's really a great JRPG to start someone on because it gives you an introduction to it. It's a great way to introduce yourself to the combat. It's a great way to introduce yourself to the job system because the job system is there in Dragon Quest IX, but it's not to the level it is in Bravely Default. Like the consequences of not properly creating party synergy aren't quite as severe in Dragon Quest. Like you can just go out and be like, okay, I obviously need to tweak this a little more. Whereas in Bravely Default, you'll get annihilated if you go there with like a party of merchants. You know,
right? And also Dragon Quest, it's a good like 10 plus hours before you even get the ability to change the job.
And you don't have that many to start, so it's not overwhelming. Whereas this one, they just come one after the other, after the other, after the other. I think in the end of Dragon Quest, there's maybe a dozen jobs, probably less. In this one, there's 24. Yeah.
Nice.
So there's a lot to process and think. I don't know how many of those, like I'm not at the end game yet, so I don't know how many of those are like, hey, you have a white mage, here's a white wizard. I don't know if that happens. We'll see. But it was the same thing where I was just basically telling her I had downloaded the demo for Bravely Default. The game was coming in. I think what had happened was I had put the demo on her 3DS, but she wasn't really interested in it. I was like, I think you might like this game. I'm not sure. And she kind of ignored it. And what it was I showed her, of all things, that stupid town building, Farmville-esque, she's laughing, mini game. And she was like, that looks kind of neat. I said, well, here's the demo. Give it a shot. And I mean, it was, again, from Dragon Quest IX to Bravely Default, it was like going from the deep end from the shallow end into the deep end of the pool and time to swim, that kind of thing. So I basically helped her through the demo. I don't want to use the word hand-holding because towards the end of it, she was definitely on her own and definitely did fine. Like, she beat all the bosses and everything. But I think I walked her through about half of it just so she knew how to do stuff. And then,
yeah, and I mean, to be fair, like, I am a role-playing veteran, and I was getting my butt spanked pretty handily, like, at the beginning of that Bravely Default demo, because I wasn't expecting, like, the low-level grunts in the starting area to actually be that tough.
Right. Additionally, there's way more to manage in Bravely Default than there is in Dragon Quest IX, which I have to go back to because that was the previous experience. Because now you're not just managing what job, you're managing the job, and you're managing equipment, and you're paying heavy consequences for having bad equipment on. You are also having to manage sub-jobs and sub-abilities, which weren't you can pull abilities from other jobs, and you can equip a second job that you don't increase the stats, you don't increase the job points towards, but you get, you can use the abilities from it. There's also a third, like it used to be just money and EXP in Dragon Quest, because if you started a new job in Dragon Quest, you start at level 1. Like you just start a level 1 character. You have some stat boosts from the other jobs that just kind of apply universally, but you're a level 1 character, so you just have EXP to track, whereas this one there's also job points. So it's just, it's more, and it can be overwhelming to somebody who hasn't played Final Fantasy Tactics or Tactics Ogre or anything with a similar system in it. And she got it. She's probably playing this game at the same level. She's playing the game at the same level as somebody who has played these kind of games their entire life. So she's ahead of me, I think, at this point. Now, she is skipping the story, which I don't understand, but she reads some of it. Like, she reads the big plot stuff, but she skips all the little details. Like it does the Tales of Games type thing where as you're walking around, a little button prompt will pop up that says, press Y to get this little side story thing where the characters are talking to each other. She hates these.
I like that.
And she never does them. But she gets, like she'll skip through the dialogue if it's taking too long, that kind of thing. Like, okay, I get the point, let's just go. Whereas I will put it on auto and listen to all the voiced stuff, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's so funny because like, and I don't want to like stereotype or anything, but I do feel that like role playing games tend to be popular with women. Like if a woman gets into a video game, I feel that it's usually a role playing game, and it's usually because of the storyline stuff. And it's so weird. Like, so a friend of mine, Nina, and I actually wrote a bit about her on Pixelbit. I got her into the Mass Effect series, and it was funny because I would go to her house when she was playing Mass Effect 1, and she was totally picking all of the options on the right side of the screen, which basically, if you haven't played Mass Effect, that's how you can like go through the story quickly. She wasn't getting any of the details, like, and she wasn't delving into anything, and she was actually actively skipping some dialogue, like, just to hurry it along. And I was like, no, you don't understand. Like, this series hinges on your investment in these characters, and you're not going to get that if you don't understand their motivations or who they are, or, understand like these different alien races and stuff. And so then she started paying more attention, and she really got into it. But it was just so weird to watch somebody like actively like, oh yeah, whatever, I just want to go shoot something. And it's like, what? Like, no, what are you doing?
Yeah, I don't understand it either, because it's not like, and I don't want to be, I'm not trying to be stereotypical either, but my wife isn't a very stoic person. She loves to communicate, loves to talk, loves telling stories, loves hearing stories. So it was kind of a shocker to me too. But here we are. And she's further in the game than I am. Again, probably due to skipping a lot of the dialogue. But she's also at a lower level than I would have thought. Whereas I don't, like I said, I don't run from encounters. She was just like, if she didn't feel like dealing with encounters, she would run from them or turn the slider down. She did make that mistake. I have to tell this story real quick. She made that mistake of turning the encounters all the way down, and then thinking she could just fight the bosses. And then she realized she was like super underleveled to take on some of these bosses, so she had to go grind a little bit. And she hasn't made that mistake since, but she still does go into the difficulty and mess with the slider to do whatever, like that's definitely a feature that she really likes on this game.
And to clarify for listeners who haven't played this, like, this is a kind of unique option to Bravely Default where you can actually increase or decrease your encounter rates depending on what you want to do. So if you are in that situation like I was talking about earlier where you're limping to the finish line of a dungeon and you don't think that you're going to make it, if you are afraid of like hitting a game over screen, you can just turn the encounters off for a little bit and get back to town and then turn them back on.
Okay, for as demanding as this game can be, it also isn't unfair with stuff like that. I don't even really consider that cheating, because what the other option is you could use an item and escape the dungeon too. So it's just whatever you want to do, I guess.
Right. And I definitely did that at the end of Final Fantasy VIII, because in that final dungeon you would get you had to fight bosses in order to get your abilities back. And there is one, I think it was part of one of the summons, that it was like a latent ability where you could actually turn it on and turn encounters off. So in order to finish that castle, I just turned random encounters off and then fought the bosses that I needed to fight to get the abilities that I wanted, and then went to go beat the game, because it was one of those things where super rapidly depleting my resources trying to trudge through there with the random encounters on. So yeah, I felt a little bad about that, but the fact that it took me like an hour to beat the last boss kind of made me feel like
that was one of those games where, and this is just me, and I'm not slamming anybody who likes Final Fantasy VIII, but I can't help getting the feeling that by the time that game was over, people were pretty much like, let's just end it. Let's be done.
That was the first Final Fantasy game that I was struggling to finish. I got to disc 4 and I was like, I kind of want it to be over.
Yeah.
And that didn't happen again until Final Fantasy 12.
I think Final Fantasy VIII has a little bit of that hubris again that we kind of just got through talking about, where they think, okay, well, man, Final Fantasy VII, let's do more, and let's shake things up real big time. And they just thought too much of their abilities. Not that I would even say Final Fantasy VIII is a bad game.
Oh no, I don't think.
Even though I don't like it,
I don't think any of the series. I wouldn't call any of them core series actually a bad game. there's only one that I actively dislike, but it's not because I think it's a bad game. I just maybe.
2? Dude, it's broken.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
That's okay though. That's okay.
Yeah. No. Okay. Yeah, I'll give you that one because I do hate that game.
8,
that's the only one that I hate.
8 is just not a system that I really liked or enjoyed or thought was fun to play. Like, even though Final Fantasy VII and you know, you got the super hardcore people who are like, well, it's not really a great job system because you can just make anybody anything. You still have to think about that. You know, I still had to carefully plan who I bogged down with spell materia and were they able to be a good mage and who was my damage dealer. You know, they still had latent stats. I don't know. We're digressing again, and I think I kind of want to stop that.
Yeah. Because we'll have plenty of time to talk Final Fantasy.
Yeah. By the way, Yoshida did do the character designs for the main characters in this game.
Okay, and he was the one that worked on Tactics.
Tactics Ogre,
okay.
Final Fantasy 12, all that stuff.
Excellent. Okay, that makes sense. And I think there's that Kickstarter that Matsuno is doing. He wants to make like a tactical RPG, and I think one of the stretch goals for that Kickstarter is sorry, what was the name of the artist again? I think he will be coming on board if they hit like I think their first or second stretch goal.
Yeah, he's coming on board. Not as the main artist though. I believe it's again as a consultant. I don't think he was I see, even here it says main character design, so I don't think he had as much of an impact as he had on, say, Final Fantasy Tactics or 12.
Right. But then again, I guess it's weird, like, so, because what is main character design in a game where the characters have up to 24 different styles, you know? Like, did he come up with the looks of all of the jobs for all 4 of those characters? Or did he just draw the 4 characters and then let everybody else decide what they were going to wear?
I don't know. Some of those character designs do look distinctly, like with the job abilities and stuff. Some of them look like something he'd come up with. And then some of them also look like somebody just had a lot of fun. Like the merchant class. Oh my word. Ring a bell with that top hat is worth the price of admission, man. That thing is great. So...
Yeah, and I was really digging the Red Mage. It looks kind of like a, you know, part pop star, part like, you know, Casanova type thing, where it's like this really nice like suit with like some roses on it and stuff like that.
Yeah, like that dance. I can't think of the name of that dance now. But there's the one with like the rose in the mouth and that kind of thing. Like it just struck me as that type of a
like a salsa dance or something. Or tango, yeah.
Believe it or not, that was my 10-year-old that came out with that. So, yep.
Very good. Do we have more to talk about? Now we're going to do. I mean, it's just by nature a shorter episode.
I don't know how much more we could get into it without ruining things.
I'm really excited to play this game. I mean, I had been already, but I'm more excited.
It's a JRPG.
Now.
There's crystals. You know. There's 4 warriors and 4 crystals, so it's
this is that RPG for people like me who was like raging at people when Final Fantasy IX came out, and they were like, "This isn't a Final Fantasy game," and I was like, "What are you talking about?"
It is. It was. Oh goodness, I don't know. Final Fantasy IX was like them giving us like a salute as that walked off into the sunset. I think. Like just that moment right at the beginning where Dagger does that swan dive when she's wearing the white mage cloak. I'm like, oh my gosh, this game, you know? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, all of those little winks and nods. I mean, throughout the whole thing. I mean,
but plus they brought blue magic back, and they did. Even if I didn't really particularly care for the blue mage, they did bring it back.
I've never had a soft spot for blue magic.
It was just neat. It was there, even in Final Fantasy V. And some of the best spells you get in like Final Fantasy V were blue magic.
Yeah, and I always intend, like for example, like the equivalent of blue magic in Final Fantasy VII is there's that, I think it's a death blow materia where it's a death blow.
No, it's
the one where basically it's blue magic where you know if you get you have to have it equipped, and if you get hit with the spell or the attack, then you might learn it. And I always have Cloud equip that with the intention of maybe doing something with it, and I just never stick with it.
It's not the slot that you have to put it in.
Yeah.
It's just not.
But,
we're done.
Yeah, I think we're done. Good chat.
Yeah, it was fun. Go play the game.
Cool story, bro.
Sure.
But no, but thank you guys for listening to this little special edition that we're just gonna kind of stealthily put out there.
Oh.
And
the music. We didn't talk about the music at all. How did we not do that?
Oh yeah. How did you not do that? Your music.
It's really good.
Enough said.
I have tweeted before that the asterisk battle music is just like this amazing combination of like there's double bass in it, like violins. It's really great. So, just
now, do you feel that this ranks up there with some of your favorite soundtracks, or is it too early to tell?
There are going to be at least 2 tracks that go on to my favorite video game music of all time playlist. Whether they will stay there, I don't know. It depends. But like, there's maybe only 20 or 30 songs that will be on there permanently through the rest of my life. So we'll see. But I'll give you that. It definitely has potential to be perma great music that I will reference in the future.
And now, especially with this being a more traditional game, and also the fact that because it's a portable game and everything, and it is such a traditional game, you know, obviously the music is going to loop more often than in like a big console game where, you know, the norm there is to have like music more, you know, as ambiance, and it only kind of weaves in and out of, you know, big events. So like, have you felt, you know, the repetition of the music, or is it good enough that you don't mind that, like, you're kind of still humming along with it, you know, after 20, 30 hours in the game?
I haven't gotten sick of anything yet, and I've put 50 plus hours in the game. There isn't ever a time. There's times where it's like, well, I'm in public, so I'll have the music down, and I don't miss like the regular battle music, overworld music, depending on where I am, because it does change. The overworld music itself doesn't change. It's that one that was in the demo where day and night sounds different and really great. But I mean, I've heard it so many times that I could hum that in my sleep.
And probably do.
But I would probably really want to turn the music up if there was another asterisk, you know, a job fight where I was fighting somebody I had to learn a job from. Boss music is good. I mean, it's just, it loops. So I will definitely leave the volume on if I have headphones available or if I'm alone. But if it's, you know, I don't miss not having it on in public, I guess.
Right.
It's really good. It's definitely melody driven. It is not, like you were saying, it's not ambiance. It's not orchestrated, filler that's supposed to rise and fall with whatever's going on. It is a looped melody a la 1632-bit RPG classics.
Which is really what I want. Like that's really what I find that I'm missing with modern video game soundtracks. Yeah,
we talked about that on Backloggers actually. With I think we talked about it mostly when we were talking about that Castlevania game, and it's like, man, Castlevania is supposed to have this really punchy, melody-driven, strong music, and it's not here.
Yeah.
And this game delivers. So.
Excellent. And we just delivered a podcast about Bravely Default. And yeah, hope you enjoyed that.
I
yes, I did too. I'm actually. It makes me want to actually fire it up right now after we like hang up, but I have stuff to do, so I will get around to it eventually. I think this weekend is going to be like just a binge of video games and Game of Thrones season 3 for me. So I'm kind of long overdue for that. But and we will also be back next week with not a special edition of the show, but it'll be a more random edition where we're just going to get all caught up on the stuff we've been up to. I know Patrick has a ton of stuff, and with him being out sick, like, he's chomping at the bit to talk about it, including some Titanfall. And I think he tried his first real MMO, which was that Elder Scrolls beta, and I can't wait to tell him why he's wrong for playing that.
Well, he might not be wrong for playing it, but he might be wrong if he falls in love with it. Is that what you're going for, or?
Oh, I got the impression he was really digging it.
Was it really his first MMO though? Because I mean,
I think he's dabbled, and I guess you can't really say that. I guess technically this still wouldn't be because, I mean, it's a beta, so you can't really go any further than dabbling. I think probably his first full one is going to be Final Fantasy 14, which he's super stoked for.
We could also just discuss this with him here and find out.
This is true, instead of talking behind his back. But, so we'll do that next week, and then we'll actually do a regular episode the following week, just to get back on track and everything, because I also have Erica penciled in for that Final Fantasy cast towards in our last episode of March.
Nice.
So, I guess that's going to do it. You should probably follow Angelo for some more Bravely Default talk, because I know you're going to be talking about it.
Pictures of me making 3 times the amount of money I'm supposed to make because I've found an exploit. Yeah.
Right. Which, I guess, go follow him on there, and then you can ask him directly, how to do that. We won't go into it.
It's not that hard. You can probably figure it out. But Pixel AJ, Pixl AJ.
Yes. And you can find me lurking on Twitter and occasionally saying something about once or twice a week at Julian_Titus. Go check out our stuff at pixelbit.com. Let us know if you're playing Bravely Default in the comments and what you think so far. Let us know what you thought of this episode, too, because, I like the idea of doing special editions. It's more of just I don't know. It's kind of rare that we can get them done or what we want to do. I kind of want to do a wrestling one, wrestling gaming one after WrestleMania with friend of the show, John Golson, but we'll see. But anyway, that's going to do it for this special edition of Nerds Without Pants. For myself, Angelo, and pouring one out for the beleaguered Patrick. Thanks for listening, and keep it pantsless, Internet. Goodbye.
Concert tonight. Take me, dude. Take me.
Choices, right? In Dragon Quest IX, I had to choose between a martial artist and a warrior to take into battle with me. I chose a warrior. Who will you choose? Decisions. Choose your posse, your weapons, your strategy. The adventure is yours. Dragon Quest IX, Sentinels of the Starry Skies. Rated everyone 10 and up.